The old Holley 3.5-inch screen is outdated and clunky. Bluetooth apps can be annoying and frustrating. So today we're going to compare the new Terminator X Bluetooth module and app versus the old 3.5-inch screen to figure out which one's better. I'm going to be doing a bunch of different tests, scoring each category as we go, and at the end, we'll add it all up and declare a winner. And full disclaimer, when I first heard that they were coming out with a Bluetooth module, I wasn't actually very excited about it. I figured it would just be something that you would connect to, once or twice and never really think about it again after the novelty wears off, like apps I've used for other tuning softwares. However, after the short amount of time I've gotten to play with this so far, I think they actually made it far more useful than I was expecting. Okay, let's see who the winner is. First category is going to be installation and mounting. Both of these units just plug directly into the 4-pin CAN connector. There's no additional wiring or anything needed, so super simple. When it comes to mounting, the Bluetooth module actually has 2 provisions for like nuts and bolts, so you can mount it nice and easy. There is a button on the unit that you need to be able to access, so keep that in mind. And there is a LED light on it that is extremely bright, so you wouldn't want to mount this somewhere where that light would be shining right in your face. When it comes to the 3.5-inch screen, you're basically forced to use double-sided tape or Velcro or something along the lines of that. It seems probably 80% of the installs that I see, the screen either just gets thrown on the floor or crammed into a glove box. The other 20% will spend the time to mount it somewhere nice and visible, which I think has its pros and cons. So I'm going to give the winner of this category to the Bluetooth module. Okay, this next category is probably one of the biggest and coolest advantages of the Bluetooth module, and that is logging directly to our cell phones. So no longer do we have to pull a SD card out of the unit, plug it into a computer, but we can actually start a log directly to our phone, and then email directly from our phone to wherever that file may need to go. So let's take a look at that. Again, you guys have all seen the login on the 3.5-inch screen. Mine would actually require a firmware update in order to do that, so we're not going to waste our time there. But if we go into the unit here, you can see we have logging, and there's a bunch of different features. We can, trigger it off of different settings. We can enable a timer so that, our logs aren't 3 hours long. And let's just start a log here, move some engine RPM around a little bit, and we can stop the log. So once you've stopped the log, you can just come in here, we can go to logs, and this is the log we just created, so we can click on that. You can rename it, you can delete it, and you can share it. And if we just go to mail, you can see now it is attached to our email, so we just need to put in the email address we want it sent to. So I think that is going to be a super helpful feature and way easier than pulling the SD card in and out of the car. So the clear winner in this category that is all about the Bluetooth module is, again, obviously the Bluetooth module. Okay, the next category is a huge update for the Bluetooth module. And for those of you that don't like using computers, maybe you're working with a remote tuner, we now have the ability to upload a global file directly from our phone straight to the ECU. So let's try this out and see how easy, or not easy, I guess it is for that matter. Okay, so I just sent myself a random global file. So we're just going to download this, save to downloads, let us do its thing. Now we'll go back into the Terminator X app. So from the home screen, we just go to the 3 hamburger looking thing over here, go into tunes, and I was kind of hoping that it would just show up, but it doesn't. So if we go to the 3 dots up here and we click on import, now there's all kinds of whatever is on your phone, but here is the file that we just downloaded. So we'll click on that, and it just goes right there, no problem. So if we click on that, we can click send to ECU, and we're good to go. Now, I'm not going to send this to the ECU because the file that's in there kind of needs to be in there, but that process is significantly easier than trying to load the global file onto the SD card and put it back into the 3.5-inch screen. So this is a clear winner for the Bluetooth module. Real quick, if you would like to learn how to tune your Holley EFI system yourself using the laptop-based software, I'd encourage you to check out my popular online training program. A lot of people have been really happy with it. So if that's something that interests you, click the link in the description. Okay, back to it. Okay, the next category is probably the biggest advantage of the Bluetooth module. And if you look down here, we actually have GPS speed built into the Bluetooth module. The 3.5-inch screen does not have that capability. Having GPS speed is going to make everybody's life significantly easier. So obviously the clear winner here is going to be the Bluetooth module. Okay, the next category is one of the most important for a lot of people, and that's going to be the price. Looking on Holley's website, it looks like the 3.5-inch screen is about $350, and the Bluetooth module for the Terminator X actually isn't even listed on Holley's website yet. However, the Sniper 2 Bluetooth module is about $225, making the Bluetooth module cheaper. So therefore, the winner of this category is going to be the Bluetooth module. Okay, this next category is a potential deal breaker for me. Ultimately, what I want to see now is how long it actually takes to reconnect the Bluetooth module once you power the ECU off and power it back on. Obviously, the 3.5-inch screen is connected, so there's no connectivity there, but there is still a boot up process. Also worth noting, even though I didn't film connecting my phone to the Bluetooth module for the first time, it was effortless. I hit connect and just a couple of seconds later, it was ready to go. So that was super simple. All right, I'm going to power this up and hit the connect button and see how long this takes. So that actually just took a couple of seconds. Actually, would probably need to go back and watch and see what the difference was. But either way, that was significantly faster than I was expecting. And I think that's a huge important thing when it comes to this. So you will have to reconnect it each time you cycle the key, but that is to be expected. So as far as scoring this one, when it comes to the speed, I'm going to say they're close enough that doesn't really bother me too much. However, the fact that you are going to have to push the reconnect button, I guess that means that we have to give the advantage here to the 3.5-inch screen since it's automatically connects. Okay, next thing we're going to look at is just the overall look and feel. You guys are more than familiar with the 3.5-inch screen, so I don't need to go into this too much, but it looks like it's from about 1984, so it is several years old at this point, so that sort of makes sense. Now when it comes to the app, it is light years better and it is far more customizable. Let's see here. Yeah, so you can set up multiple dash screens, but apparently it is not available yet. Like I said, some of the stuff, updates and whatnot are going to continue to roll out with this. But you can just see that overall, this looks significantly better. And also worth noting, I think that this display looks a lot better than the one that is in the actual laptop software, but that's totally personal preference. And everything is customizable as you would expect. You can put whatever channels you want, wherever you want. So considering this is new, this is probably a pretty obvious one, but when it comes to overall look and feel, this new app I think is significantly better. Now I will say one thing that maybe is of concern if you wanted to mount like a tablet permanently in the car is that some of the pages and stuff are clearly meant to be viewed vertical and not horizontal. So I don't know if maybe that's going to be problematic with something that's permanently mounted, but as far as on your phone goes, it's just fine. And we also have the setup wizard. You can set your ECU time and date. The TPS auto set is a lot easier to navigate, I think. And I don't want to erase the tune that's in there, but you can go through the wizard. I think it's just better essentially in every way in that regard. So obviously the clear winner here is the Bluetooth module. The next category, we have the option to do this in both the 3.5-inch screen and the Bluetooth module, which is tuning adjustments. So let's take a look and see if they made any improvements in that regard. So again, you've all been inside the 3.5-inch screen. You know that you have the ability to make some adjustments, but everything is pretty basic and just doesn't really give you the flexibility that you want. If we go into tuning in the Bluetooth module, you can see it's laid out a whole lot nicer. And this is one of the biggest advantages here. As you can see, we have our advanced tables and stuff like that. But click on whatever you want. Let's just go here. You can see we have the ability to view things in tables or graphically. And you can just see how much more like legit this looks, especially if you're used to looking at the laptop software. So I use this view more than anything else. Now, clearly on your phone, this is going to be nearly impossible to edit like this. So then you can go into Edit Table. If you click on a unit, you can make your adjustment changes there. And you can see the heat map and everything works, so you can get a good idea of what you're looking at. So this is light years better than what the 3.5-inch screen offered. Let me go into Advanced. You can see it looks like this, whatever's in here, has one advanced table. So you can enable, disable, basically you can do everything that you can do within the laptop software. And then you can go into the actual table and make your adjustments. So the clear winner of this category is obviously the Bluetooth module. I really like that it gives you the ability to essentially make all of the changes that you would make for the most part from using the laptop software. So that way if you're out and about and you need to make a change, you're able to do it. However, there is no way that I think you would ever tune the car all the way using just the app. It would save you just an infinite amount of time just connecting up to the laptop and tuning that way. Okay, the next category is going to be visibility. I have pretty good eyesight. I don't wear glasses, but I find that depending on where the 3.5-inch screen is mounted in cars, sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. It can be pretty small. The Bluetooth module is going to be dependent on what device you use. So this iPhone, I don't know what model this is, probably 5 years old or something like that. But it's still much easier to see than the 3.5-inch screen. It's much clearer. But with the Bluetooth module, we have the option of using whatever size iPad or Android, whatever it is that you want to use. So you kind of get to decide on that. Kind of unrelated, but I do find it's worth mentioning that just the overall usability, the wording, the terminology, just every aspect in terms of all of that goes is much easier and much clearer when it comes to the Bluetooth module. So for visibility, the Bluetooth module is the winner. Okay, the next category we're going to do is updates, because I was just sent an update literally while I was filming that. So you're very familiar with what a pain it can be updating the 3.5-inch screen using the SD card and that whole process. So let's see if we can't successfully update our software on the phone. Now, just to be clear, this was updating the app on the phone and would be the equivalent of updating the firmware on the handheld, not actually updating the ECU itself. So updating the app just was literally clicking the screen a couple of times. Couldn't have been any easier, significantly easier than updating the firmware on the screen. I will say that the process took maybe a little bit longer, but probably less time than pulling the SD card out and putting it in a computer and all of that. So we're going to give this category to the Bluetooth module. Okay, the next category is probably the worst part about the 3.5-inch screen at this point, and we're going to be looking at the responsiveness of kind of touching the screen, pushing the buttons, getting it to do what you want. So now that we're trying to make the 3.5-inch screen not cooperate, it's probably going to work perfectly. But if you've used any of these for any reasonable amount of time, you've probably found that a lot of times you have to actually push whatever it is that you're trying to do multiple times in order to get it to do what you want. It's actually cooperating somewhat with me right now, but I don't know if this is one of those things where some are worse than others. But it's not uncommon to have to push a button 3 times to get it to work. So if we go back to the phone, it's every bit just as responsive as your phone would normally be. So as expected, the winner when it comes to screen responsiveness is going to be the Bluetooth module. Okay, the next category we're going to look at, I think, is another somewhat important one, but I'm curious to see how much lag there is between actually moving engine sensors and then how fast these 2 displays are going to pick those up. Let's check that out. Okay, if you watch the boost channel, that's the one that I'm going to be changing. And it looks like the 3.5-inch screen is basically instant. And there is a little bit of a lag with the Bluetooth device. Maybe like a second or so. So again, that's kind of to be expected with Bluetooth. That's how most Bluetooth stuff works. So with that being said, the winner of the lag category is going to be the 3.5-inch screen. Okay, the next category is one of the reasons I generally don't like most Bluetooth stuff. I'm just going to call it the loss of the use of your phone. So as I've been recording this, I keep getting messages and stuff on my phone, and if you were driving your car and you're trying to look at your phone to monitor things or whatever the case may be, now you've lost access to half of the stuff that you would normally have access to on your phone. So with all that being said, there's an element of me liking the old school method of a dedicated screen for your car. So we're going to give this category to the 3.5-inch screen. Worth mentioning, when you turn the ignition off, you will have to reconnect the app. However, one thing that is great that some other, especially camera apps that I use, if you minimize the Terminator X app, it will stay connected. I said some of the other ones I use, once you minimize the app, it comes disconnected. You have to go through that whole process again. So super happy that you can minimize the app, do what you need to do, come back without having to reset up everything. Okay, next category is one that basically everybody dreads, and that is firmware updates. So the 3.5-inch screen has been considered the safest route for doing firmware updates for a really long time versus using the laptop. I've never had problems with the laptop. I don't necessarily see why so many people do, but you need to be pretty familiar with structuring files and folders and stuff on an SD card, and it can be kind of a mess. Most people are super intimidated with it. With the Bluetooth module, you are actually able to update to the newest version of the firmware from your phone. So you just hit update and it will do the firmware update for you. I'm told it's every bit as safe as the 3.5-inch screen, but I'm not going to do it or show you just in case there are problems. Then you don't try and come and blame me. So if everything works as expected, the Bluetooth module is going to be a huge winner in this department as well. So I was making up the categories for comparison as we went along and getting familiar with the Bluetooth module. So I really had no idea what the outcome of this video was going to be, but it looks like the winner by a landslide is the Bluetooth module with a score of 12, and our 3.5-inch screen had a score of 3. So if you already have a 3.5-inch screen, hopefully this video will help you determine if maybe you want to upgrade or not. And if you have not yet ordered your Holley system and you have the ability to order without the 3.5-inch screen and to pick up the Bluetooth module instead, I would recommend going that direction. If you tune your car yourself or you want to learn how to tune your car yourself, make sure you check out this video here where I go over 15 different tuning lessons that I had to learn the hard way so that you don't have to.